Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Wave Natural Processed Ecuador from Coffea Circulor. And there's the bag right there. And Coffea Circulor, based out of Arendal, Norway. And this coffee was featured in our most recent blind taste test rankings video, where it finished 4th place out of 4 coffees on that day. And truth be told, there's absolutely no shame in finishing last in that blind taste test video, as these were all 4 really impressive coffees. And this one was definitely the biggest underdog going into that video, given my strong preference towards washed coffees, and this one being the only natural among those 4. This of course begins our 4 video long review series focusing on Jose Pepe Gijon and his coffees, 3 of which are of the Típica Mejorada variety, including this one right here. And that's a variety that's really impressed me a lot this year, so I'm holding these coffees to really high standards and expectations. Very much looking forward to this entire series. This right here is day 28 of this coffee. The recipe we went with for this coffee was a 16:1 water to coffee ratio, brewed at 94 degrees Celsius, and I liked this one best through the Chemex. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, I liked all 4 of these Jose Pepe Gijon coffees best through the Chemex. That of course indicates a more medium grind, and Coffea Circulor is a Nordic light for the roast profile. With those things out of the way, let's start discussing this coffee. Day 14, that blind taste test day. And if you watched that video, then you saw that this one was the easiest to pick out without question, because this one had a little bit more of the natural aspects to it. Much more robust, much more of the dark berry, especially when compared to the other coffees on that table, 2 of which were super clean and super floral, and 1 of which was a little unique and different, that of course being Manhattan's Pepe Gijon. So this one right here definitely didn't feel to the same sort of standard as the other ones, given just how blown away I was by the other ones, but I felt that of course this one might just need a little bit more work. Day 15, ran into the Chemex, and the cup felt much cleaner, and this is basically the simplest explanation for why I like the Chemex best for this coffee. It just feels cleaner, and cleanliness is super important to me, and it's why those other coffees finished higher than this one. With a much cleaner base, the entirety of the cup could be toned down, and it could even be compared to the washed coffees in some aspects, given that it was quite clean. Sweet and complex, darker berries, darker honey, still the darker attributes to this cup of coffee, but a much better, cleaner cup of coffee, so we were headed in the right direction. Day 17, another great experience, this time brewing with Coffea Circulor's recipe, and Coffea Circulor's recipe works quite well with this coffee. I just wanted it toned down a little bit. The 15:1 ratio that Coffea Circulor likes is a little more concentrated than I typically like with most coffees, so that's why I keep kind of dialing them back ever so slightly. They had a spice attribute, I think it's cinnamon, listed on here, and there was a fair bit of this slightly sweeter spice, so I could definitely see the cinnamon that they were going for on here. Lower temperatures seem to help with the robustness. It is much more palatable of a cherry that's coming from this. Again, that darker berry attribute. And it's skewing slightly on the red fruit side of things, but it's berry fruit. It's a cleaner berry fruit, so it's a positive fruit for me. We continue on to day 21, which has been the standout day and the best day of the coffee to this point, as it's coming out super clean. And it's the cleanest it's been to this point, and there's a sweet berry-like base in 2 aspects, with both a vintage Ethiopian-like blueberry and a clean strawberry. Sweet and luscious stone fruit as well, and it's just wonderful all around. This was a really impressive day for this coffee, and I really liked everything that I was experiencing from it. Here's a fun fact, and a fun note for me anyway. The coffee smells like blueberry waffles. When you grind the coffee and you get the aroma from the grounds, it kind of smells like blueberry waffles to me, and I can get that. It's probably that slight darker berry attribute, as well as that spice that's going alongside it, that makes it have this kind of sweeter, almost waffle-like taste to it. It's very nice. Day 25, the cup is extremely multi-layered, as it starts off honey and cinnamon forward before cooling off into this varied berry-like cup with a brighter cherry and a deeper strawberry. Sweetness in general opens up as it does cool down, and you're getting a fair bit more of these berries as well as the sugary stone fruit. So really positive. I mean, I love my fruits, I love cleanliness, and I love sugariness, especially sweetness. So this right here was just all around really impressive. These, of course, are smaller bags of coffee, so I have fewer notes, but as you can see right here from those notes we have, and this day right here, this has been a pretty positive experience. All right, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we're getting. All right, and a bunch of level 4, so let's go through those real quick. The finish, level 4. Yes, very even finish, definitely not overbearing in any sense, and it's quite a nice finish. I think it's almost ideal for what you would expect from a natural processed coffee. Really liking that finish. Sweetness, level 4. Yes, great sweetness. It's that kind of traditional level 4, maybe slightly higher side of the level 4, but great level 4 nonetheless. Acidity, yeah, actually, truth be told, it's on the lower side of that level 4, but even then, it has a slight bit of acidity. I don't think I've really noticed it or made too much of a note of it, because it's definitely not the most dominant or noticeable thing about this cup of coffee. Spice, level 4. So that sweeter spice, I think, again, that they have cinnamon listed on here, it's actually quite prominent, and it's quite pronounced, and it's very much within this cup, so I definitely found that one justified at the level 4. Makes this coffee a little bit more unique when compared to a lot of its contemporaries. Berry fruit, level 4, I would say the most pronounced characteristic for me, whether it be the slight cherry, whether it be the maybe cleaner strawberry, or most notably the blueberry. I felt like the berry fruit was by far the most pronounced aspect component to this cup of coffee, but it was never to the extent where it justified all the way up there at that level 5 mark. Feel it's really good there. Lots of other things really worth discussing in this tasting wheel, so let's go through the florals real quick. As mentioned, kind of that honey floral, really nice, darker honey, quite pleasant in this cup of coffee. Definitely there, definitely pronounced as well, so that's why it's on the higher side of things. Stone fruit, level 3. Yes, when it cools down, you get this kind of really nice, delightful stone fruit. It's a little darker for me, a little bit more on the sugary side of things, so really pleasant stone fruit in this cup of coffee too. Body, on the slightly lower side of things. I think maybe my expectations were slightly higher. That being said, this is through the Chemex, so you are going to be expecting a slightly lower body. And then the most important thing in this entire tasting wheel is that cleanliness there at that level 3 mark. And that's really tricky, because this is definitely on the higher side of the level 3. I could bump this all the way up to a level 4, and if I'm being completely honest, it could justify that level 4 mark. However, I had to put it there at that level 3 mark to kind of demonstrate the differences between the rest of these Jose Pepe Gijon coffees, because this one right here is definitely the least clean amongst those 4 coffees, even if it is still a cleaner coffee. So keep that level 3 in mind in context, because most of the time, if I wasn't comparing it alongside 3 other coffees, this is a level 4 for the cleanliness. It's a pretty clean natural, one of the cleaner naturals I've had this year. Quite positive in that sense. For the most part though, I think that's what's worth discussing in this tasting wheel. There are a lot of really interesting aspects to this coffee, and that's very much demonstrated in this more unique looking tasting wheel. Alright, so my overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee. Let me get this out of the way first off. I still feel like this one's a little bit of a distant fourth when compared to the other 3 coffees, and when those other 3 reviews come out, you'll see exactly why I felt that way. However, this is a really impressive natural. This is definitely on the better side of natural processed coffees I've had this year. I would really have to think, comparing it alongside of a lot of the other naturals we've had. This one won't finish in our top 10, and I don't know if it'll finish on our honorable mentions list. It might. However, it's just going to have the unfortunate circumstance of being up against some extremely impressive Ecuadorian coffees. These Ecuadorian coffees right now are just marvelous. This one right here is no exception to that rule. Very impressive natural processed coffee. Yeah, so that just kind of transitions into that. So the type of person I would suggest this coffee to is people that like their sweeter, cleaner, natural processed coffees. This one right here does have a slight bit of that fermenty aspect, but you can easily overlook that when you're getting wonderful sweetness, wonderful clarity, wonderful spice, wonderful fruits. Like, you can just rattle off all these things that are coming from this cup of coffee that has so much depth and so much beauty to it in general that you're not going to mind if you're just missing out on some slight, maybe more cleanliness compared to the other wash processed coffees. Very much makes up for it in other categories. Keep in mind, spice I think is one thing that's really interesting and really fun in this, because it did chart really high. Berries, of course, also keep that in mind, but I think everybody loves kind of cleaner, natural processed berries in general. So I think for the most part, I'll leave this review at that, as we still have 3 more of these coffees to go, and they're all going to warrant their own praise and acclaim too. So if you've by chance had an opportunity to try this coffee, would love to know your thoughts and impressions of it as well. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And this right here has been a review of the Wave Natural Processed Ecuador from Coffea Circulor. Thank you for watching.